Good morning, afternoon, or evening. For those of you who are joining us live this morning, welcome, welcome, welcome. And to those of you who will join us on a replay, maybe you'll catch this at a later date. Welcome to you as well. Today's workshop is going to be given by myself, Ms. Ayana Meeks. I am the CEO and founder of Healing Hearts to Heal, which is a nonprofit that was founded in the state of North Carolina in the year of 2021. And so I'm so grateful and so honored to be able to partner with WeSERVE under the WeCARE program to be able to provide you with workshops that fall under personal development. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much to Eugene McCowan, who is the CEO and founder of WeServe, for giving me the opportunity to partner and share this information, which is vital with our community. So much has gone on since COVID. And so a lot of this information is very pertinent to now post-pandemic. We have not seen those effects go away. We've actually seen increase, not just in adults, but we also see it in our children. And as a middle school school counselor, I do see the struggles of our young people, but I also see the struggles of their parents, the adults. And so it is an honor to be able to bring this information. So my hope is that you will glean something from today that you will find useful, not just for the adults, but also for our young people as well. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation because I do have a lot of information to share. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. Wonderful. All right. So as I stated, I am Ms. Ayana Meeks. I am the founder and the CEO of Healing Hearts to Heal. And again, I do hold a master's degree in educational skill counseling. And so I'm excited to bring this information to you today. All right, so today's presentation is on how to effectively resolve conflict. Conflict is, I see it every day, I deal with it every day, especially working in the middle school, having to mediate between students all of the time, and teaching students how to resolve conflict effectively, okay? So we're going to start by talking about what is conflict. So according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, there are several definitions for conflict, okay? So number one, the first one I saw was fight, battle, and this is in war. So when we think about fight, battle, and war, this is considered an armed conflict, okay? Number two, there's two here. So competitive or opposing action of incompatibles, antagonistic state of action, and these are conflict of principles, okay? And B, mental struggle resulting from incompatible or opposing needs, drives, wishes, or external or internal demands. And so we look at this as conflict of conscience, okay? Then you have the opposition of persons or forces that gives rise to dramatic action in a drama or fiction, okay? So these definitions are based on the noun form of the word conflict. So let's look at the verb. So what does conflict in verb form mean? Simple definition, conflict simply means to be different, opposed, or contradictory, to fail to be in agreement or accord. This will be the definition that will be our focus today. All right, so conflict, let's talk about it. Conflict can be seen as an opportunity. You might be saying, huh? Not in my experience. However, yes, conflict is a natural part of the human experience. Conflict is not wrong or bad. It does not mean you are failing. Conflict shines a light on something that is not working. So use this opportunity to learn about yourself and others. People deal with conflict in different ways. Therefore, you need different conflict resolution strategies. We will explore how conflict affects us as humans and how to effectively resolve conflict. So if you want to look at it this way, these are our objectives for today's workshop. All right, so let's go ahead and dive deep. Let's dive in. So when we look at relationship conflict, we're going to look at not just look at relationship conflict, but what is it? And I'm going to address that. So relationship conflict is a disagreement between people, partners, friends, siblings, or coworkers. The root of the conflict might be something like a difference of opinion, experience, taste, perspective, personality, or beliefs. Okay. So conflict is generally intense enough to disrupt some aspect of the relationship, such as communication, which is what differentiates it from simply just having a difference of opinion. It is not just romantic partners who can experience conflict, okay? Families can also be in conflict, whether it's in an open debate over dinner or an underlying feeling of discomfort that remains unspoken. Family conflict can cause a significant amount of stress, okay? We can all agree to that. It might be that there's no lack of love between members, but rather a lack of comfort in dealing with conflict. And so what that simply is saying is not the lack of love between the members, but a lack of comfort in dealing with the conflict. Conflict is not comfortable, okay? No matter how best of friends we might be with somebody or whatever the case that relationship may be, when conflict arises, it's not comfortable, okay? Even for those who people deem as confrontational, but conflict is never comfortable, nor dealing with it. All right. So conflict, while it can be difficult and uncomfortable, conflict in a relationship is not always a bad thing. When it is healthy and productive, relationship conflict presents an opportunity for people to learn about how others see and experience the world. It can also generate creative solutions to problems and also help people grow. However, when conflict is not productive or healthy, it can be harmful to everyone that's involved. Sustained, unresolved conflict can create tension at home or at work. It can erode the strength and satisfaction of a relationship and can even make people feel physically sick or in pain. Okay. So how can conflict affect your health? Research has shown that relationship conflict can negatively affect your health. In one study, stable negative social exchanges, in other words, repetitive or prolonged conflict, were significantly associated with lower self-rated health, greater functional limitations, and a higher number of health conditions. So when we look at that, people who had been engaged in repetitive or prolonged conflict, when surveyed, rated lower self-rated health. So my health is not good. I'm not in good health because of all of the stress that I'm dealing with, all of the continuous conflict that I'm in, whether it's work, home, whatever the situation is. Okay. Also, a greater functional limitation. Some people can become so debilitated by conflict that they're not able to do the things that they want to do or used to do. They're no longer motivated. They're no longer excited. They don't have the motivation to do. And so we'll talk about that a little later in our presentation. Okay. And then it also says a higher number of health conditions. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. So exposure to conflict can make you more susceptible to infectious illnesses like colds and the flu. Some people also experience chronic pain related to stress, such as headaches and back or neck pain. Okay. A few conditions that are associated with chronic stress: acne, anxiety disorders, burnout, depression, diabetes, digestive issues such as diarrhea, constipation, ulcers. What also was not included in here under the digestive issues is IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. I've known people in my personal life who suffer from that. And what activated it was stressful situations. Food too. I'm not going to just say all of this, but stress can also irritate that gut. All right. Hair loss, heart disease, hyperthyroidism, insomnia, obesity, sexual dysfunction, or changes in your libido, and then tooth and gum disease. And these are just a few. Okay. Again, I'm not a doctor, but this is helpful information that I found that I thought was pertinent to this workshop, and thought I would include that information in this presentation. All right, so conflict in our physical health. Okay, so those country songs about the pain of a broken heart might actually be backed up by science. Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, also known as stress cardiomyopathy or broken heart syndrome. So some of you are probably like, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of that before. It's triggered by extreme and sudden emotional trauma or physical stress. Broken heart syndrome typically causes severe pressure like chest pain, similar to what someone would feel when having a heart attack. Research on social exclusion has revealed that the pain of loneliness and social rejection is processed by the same area of the brain that processes physical pain, which is why it can physically hurt to be rejected by a loved one or anyone for that matter. Conflict between partners or within families can also lead to this condition. When you are repeatedly exposed to stress and conflict in a relationship, you might develop a heightened sensitivity to physical pain or even become numb to it. So there's two extremes here. Okay. Relationship conflict is not the same as abuse. Okay, so I had to put this in here. If your partner is physically or emotionally abusive, whether in the presence of a conflict or not, there are resources that you can turn to for help. Okay, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and you can reach them at 1-800-799-7233 for confidential assistance from trained advocates. Okay, sometimes it's not easy to reach out in situations like this, but I'm going to encourage you, if you are watching this, I want to make it very clear that relationship conflict is not the same as abuse. Okay. All right. Also, if you want more information on mental health resources as well, you can go to the National Helpline database. You just put that into Google, and it will bring up a database of mental health resources, hotlines and numbers and services that you can reach out and get some help in that area as well. Okay. All right, so types of relationship conflict, okay? And again, when we talk about relationship, as I mentioned in the previous slides, we're not just talking about husband and wife situations or couples. Relationship can be, again, as we stated, co-workers, it could be friends, it could be siblings, your partner, maybe you're not married, but you're in a long-term relationship with somebody. So please, 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 as the examples are given, it may give examples of couples, but please know this information and the strategies can be used in every type of relationship, no matter what the context of it is, all right? There are different types of conflict that can affect relationships. This can include issues that are never openly addressed, as well as conflicts that are expressed but never appropriately resolved. All right, so unacknowledged conflict, okay? Conflict is inevitable. Relationships in which people never fight are not always as blissful as they seem. When anger is suppressed or unacknowledged by partners or family members, again, or in a friendship, or in a co-worker type relationship, supervisor, and worker relationship, it can actually be unhealthy when it goes suppressed or unacknowledged, okay? Research has found that in couples where one partner habitually suppressed anger, both partners tended to die younger. On the other hand, acknowledging and effectively resolving conflict can be a pathway to greater understanding between two people, bringing them closer, okay? So when we look at poorly managed conflict, knowing that unresolved conflict has risks might make you think that you need to vent your anger in any way and at any time and to any person that you want. That's not necessarily the healthiest way to approach and work through conflict either, okay? So either I'm going to unacknowledge it or I'm going to start saying whatever I want, how I want, when I want, to whom I want. And that's not healthy either, okay? The way you approach and resolve conflict can influence the health of all of your relationships, be it with a spouse, a parent, a friend, a coworker, or even a child, okay? All right, so let's look at some conflict resolution don'ts. These are mistakes that we don't want to make when we're trying to resolve conflict, okay? The first one we're going to look at is avoiding conflict altogether. Rather than discussing your building frustrations in a calm, respectful manner, some people just don't say anything to their partner until they're ready to explode. And then they blurt out in any anger, they blurt it out in an angry, hurtful way, because now it's even exploding. This seems to be the less stressful route, avoiding an argument altogether. But usually it causes more stress to both parties as tensions rise, resentment begins to fester, and a much bigger argument eventually results. It is much healthier to address and resolve conflict. These assertive communication skills can help you to say things in a way where you will be more likely to be heard without being disrespectful to the other person, okay? So I'm gonna just throw this caveat in here. It's not in my notes, but it's very important, especially on this particular slide. Part of this is doing a self-evaluation, not looking at the other person, but looking at yourself. So as we go through these, I'm even doing a self-evaluation. Am I doing some of these things? Because this is a learning workshop. How do we deal with conflict in a effective way? How do we resolve it effectively? Okay. All right. The second don't, being defensive. Rather than addressing a partner's complaints with an objective eye and willingness to understand the other person's point of view, defensive people steadfastly deny any wrongdoing and work hard to avoid looking at the possibility that they could be contributing to a problem. So again, that is self-evaluation, self-reflection, okay? Am I playing a part in the problem? Okay, all right? Denying responsibility may seem to alleviate stress in the short run, but it also creates long-term problems when partners or the other person don't feel listened to and unresolved conflicts continue to grow. Okay. All right. So when we're on the defensive, we're not looking at the piece that we might be playing. We're only looking at the other person. Okay. The second thing is is overgeneralizing. When something happens that they don't like, some people blow it out of proportion by making sweeping generalizations. Avoid starting sentences with "you always" and "you never," as in "you always come home late" or "you never do what I want to do." Stop and think about whether or not this is really true, okay? Because look at those words: always, never, okay? Also, don't bring up past conflicts to throw the discussion off topic and stir up more negativity. This stands in the way of true conflict resolution and increases the level of conflict, okay? Sometimes we're not aware of the ways the mind can blow things out of proportion. This list of common cognitive distortions can get in the way of healthy relationships with others, and it can exacerbate stress levels, okay? All right. And so when you're thinking about those things, see which ones may be familiar to you, okay? All right, because our minds can definitely begin to create things. It can create things that didn't even happen. We can add to something, or we can clearly hear what the person is saying, but our minds begin to add certain things and generalize. And so this is what we don't want to do, okay? All right, what we don't want to do, being right. These are mistakes. It's damaging to decide that there's a right way to look at things and a wrong way to look at things, and that your way of seeing things is right. Don't demand that your partner or whoever it is you're dealing with see things the same way, and don't take it as a personal attack if they have a different opinion. Look for a compromise or agree to disagree. And remember that there's not always a right or a wrong, and that 2 points of view can both be valid. Okay? When I'm counseling or doing mediation with my students at the middle school level, I always tell the 2 or 3 or 4, however many are involved, that there are all different perspectives. We all have a different perspective of what's going on in the situation. And all of our perspectives are not going to be the same, okay? And that applies to here as well, okay? All right, so psychoanalyzing, okay? Mind reading. This is very important, okay? So instead of asking about their partners or the other person's thoughts and feelings, people sometimes decide that they know what their partners or that other person are thinking and feeling based only on faulty interpretations of their actions, and always assume it's negative. For an example, deciding a late friend doesn't care enough to be on time, or that a tired partner is denying sex out of passive aggressiveness. This creates hostility and misunderstandings, okay? It is important to keep in mind that we all come from a unique perspective and work hard to assume nothing. Really listen to the other person and let them explain where they are coming from, okay? We're not mind readers, okay? And we can get it wrong, okay? We can definitely get it wrong, all right? Okay, let's keep going. All right, forgetting to listen is another don't. Some people interpret, roll their eyes, and rehearse what they're going to say next instead of truly listening and attempting to understand their partner. This keeps you from seeing their point of view and keeps your partner or the other person you're talking to or dealing with from wanting to see yours, okay? So don't underestimate the importance of really listening and empathizing with the other person. These listening skills are important to bear in mind. So we want to listen to understand. We don't want to listen so that we can just get in what we want to say. But you want to take in what the person is really saying so that there is no room for all the other things that we talked about, the overgeneralizing, the psychoanalyzing, and the mind reading. But if we really listen to what the person is saying, we're listening to understand. We're listening to hear their point of view, okay? All right. Another thing that we don't want to do is play the blame game. Some people handle conflict by criticizing and blaming the other person for the situation. Okay. They see admitting any weakness on their own part as a weakening of their credibility and avoid it at all costs and even try to shame them for being at fault. So it's easy for us to blame. Again, no self-reflection. Again, no accountability for our part in what we played in the conflict, okay? So what we don't want to do is blame, play the blame game, all right? And the reason why that happens, again, that explanation says, is because that person who is blaming sees that admitting any of weaknesses on their own part as a weakening of their credibility, okay? So, and they avoid it at all costs, okay? And even try to shame, or even try to shame them for being at fault, okay? So instead, try to view conflict as an opportunity to analyze a situation objectively. Okay, what do I see? Okay, assess the needs of both parties. What do I need in this? What does the person I'm dealing with need in this? Okay, and come up with a solution that helps you both. And doing that goes back to not forgetting to listen. Because when we're listening with our heart, with our mind, with the intention to hear, with the intention to understand, then we can come and we can assess the needs of both parties when we do that, okay? If that makes sense. All right, the other thing that we don't want to do is try to win the argument. There's a solid piece of relationship wisdom that says when people are focused on winning the argument, the relationship loses. Everybody loses. There's no winners, okay? The point of a relationship discussion should be mutual understanding and coming to an agreement or resolution that respects everyone's needs. Okay. You're making a case for how wrong the other person is, discounting their feelings and staying stuck in your point of view. You're focused in the wrong direction. Again, you're trying to win an argument. You're too busy fighting and trying to get the other person to only see your side because, as we stated in the few don'ts, you're trying to be right. My way is the right way, okay? And we all can say we struggle with all of these don'ts, but we're learning today in this workshop, okay? Another don't, making character attacks. Sometimes people take any negative action from a partner and blow it up into a personality flaw. For example, if a husband leaves his socks lying around, looking at it as a character flaw, and label him inconsiderate and lazy. Or if a woman wants to discuss a problem with the relationship, labeling her needy, controlling, or too demanding. Okay, so that's making character attacks. Labeling creates negative perceptions on both sides. Remember to respect the person, even if you don't like the behavior. Okay, so always trying to get down to the root of the problem. Okay, so what we don't want to do is make character attacks. We don't want to start labeling each other. Okay, what we don't want to do, stonewalling. When one partner wants to discuss troubling issues in a relationship, sometimes people defensively stonewall or refuse to talk or listen to their partner. This shows disrespect and, in certain situations, even contempt, while at the same time letting the underlying conflict grow. Okay? This is that unacknowledged conflict, unacknowledged. Stonewalling solves nothing but creates hard feelings and damages relationships. It's much better to listen and discuss things in a respectful manner. Okay? We never want to be disrespectful. It just stirs the pot and it creates more and more conflict, and the conflict grows. Okay? All right, so what are some causes of conflict? Now that we talked about what we're not going to do, what doesn't work in conflict resolution, we talked about those things. So now, what are some causes of conflict? All relationships experience conflict from time to time. Some of the most common causes of conflicted relationships can include, this list is not, subjected to just these, okay? It's not inclusive to, secluded to just these, okay? So problematic behaviors, okay? Communication issues, disagreements about leisure time, intimacy issues, division of labor. That's why I said we can talk about conflict on our work, out about in society. There could be a conflict while you out shopping. Conflicts over children and parenting, finances, jealousy, trust issues. These are just a limited list of some things that can cause conflict. These are just a few examples. Okay. All right, so how do we use conflict the right way? All right, so using conflict the right way. All right, so we're going to use I statements. Okay, so when relationship conflicts arise between you and your partner or whoever it is you're dealing with, there are some specific tips that can make it easier for you to work through it together. All right, so using those I statements. All right, if you're in an argument with your partner or whoever you're dealing with, try to resist the urge to constantly toss out yous. Instead of saying, you did that thing I hate, which could be taken as an accusation. Take responsibility for how you feel while clearly identifying how your partner's behavior influenced you. Okay, so we give an example here. You might say, I feel frustrated because you left your plate on the table instead of putting it in the sink. Since I had asked you to do that before we sat down to eat, it makes me feel like you weren't listening to me or that you don't care about my needs. Okay? So providing specifics may help your partner or the person you're dealing with recognize a behavior that they are more than willing to work on, but hadn't been aware of it. Okay. It also gives them the opportunity to defend or explain a behavior if they feel they have been misunderstood. Maybe the person didn't hear you when you asked, to get your plate and put it in the sink. Maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe you thought you were loud enough, but they didn't hear you. So giving that person time to explain, okay? And then using I statements eliminates the accusatory tone, okay? And when you eliminate the accusatory tone, then that opens up the person to want to explain, okay? But if you accuse, some people will shut down to that and don't want to communicate about it, all right? So while I statements are helpful when you are talking about how you feel about a situation, when it's time for you and your partner or the person that you're dealing with to take action, move to a unified we. Saying I have to solve this problem could make you feel overwhelmed and alone. Okay. Saying you have to solve this problem could make it seem like you aren't taking responsibility for your part and leaving all the work up to your partner. Okay. So that's where we go from the I statements to convey your feelings and bring a clarification, understanding to the other person. But also you want to move from that to we. So it's more empowering to see a conflict from the perspective of we have to solve this problem rather than the solitary I or you, okay? I hope this is making sense and you guys are understanding, okay? All right, next what we want to do in effectively resolving conflict is we want to be respectful and kind. Conflicts in relationships don't have to turn into down and out fights. You can have a disagreement with your partner or whoever you're dealing with without yelling, name calling, dredging up the past, belittling them, or minimizing your needs. As you are speaking with your partner or the person you're in conflict with, stay aware of how you are feeling as you are speaking. If you can feel that you are tensing up, your voice might become raised or your tone begins to become aggressive. If you feel or hear these changes, stop. Stop and take a breath. Recognize where you are emotionally. Okay? All right, that's very important. Calling your partner names, screaming over them when they are talking, making threats, and using a mocking or sarcastic tone of voice isn't just disrespectful. It will also prevent any kind of effective communication. People will shut down. I know because I used to be one of the shut down. Because now nobody's listening. We're doing all the screaming, we're name calling, we're making threats, we're being sarcastic, we're being disrespectful. Nobody's listening. Nobody's trying to resolve the conflict. It is just escalating at this point. Okay. It also could cause more relationship problems on top of the one you are attempting to solve. Not to mention lead to hurt feelings that could make it less likely concerns will be shared openly in the future. Somebody's gonna say, you know what, from now on, I'm not even gonna share how I feel. I'm not gonna talk about how I feel because when I do, I'm mocked, I'm threatened, I'm screamed at, I'm this, I'm that, okay? And hey, this is not a session to shame you. It's not a guilt session. This is a workshop to help us grow. This workshop is how to effectively resolve conflict. How do we do it effectively? All right, so important, so important, okay? All right, good stuff. Listen to understand, okay? One of the tenets of being an active listener is to listen and truly hear what the other person is saying with the intention to understand. I mentioned that earlier, not just to determine when it's your turn to start talking again, okay? That's how most of us uh, interpret listening. Now I'm gonna hear you, but I'm waiting for me to jump in. Okay, no, no, ma'am, no, sir. If you are having a disagreement with your partner or a person that you're dealing with, it's important that you really take the time to understand not just how they feel, but why they feel that way. This approach shows that you are making an effort not just to see things from their point of view, but also to understand where they are coming from. Okay. That whole part, guys, is so important. A lot of times, if your posture is, I don't care how you feel, you're not listening to understand. Okay. We have to want to understand how they feel. All right. So important. Being an active listener is also valuable when you are trying to find a solution to a problem together. You can't find a solution until you get to the root of the problem. And you're only going to get to the root of the problem by listening to that person, understanding why they feel the way that they do. Okay. Not just seeing things from their point of view, but also to understand where they are coming from. Okay. What we can't do is tell somebody, well, you don't have a right to be mad. No, no, ma'am, no, sir. They probably do have a right to be mad. They can feel what they feel. We can't tell somebody that what they're feeling is wrong, or how they took something is wrong. But we that's why this part is so important, to listen, to understand, guys. Okay. If you are only thinking about what you think will work without taking your partner's or the other person's suggestions into consideration, they might feel that you are ignoring or invalidating them. It also could get in the way of a productive and efficient resolution to the problem. Okay? So important. All right. We also want to consider the timing. Okay? Consider the timing. Try to avoid discussing disagreements or trying to solve a problem when you and your partner or whoever you're talking to, whatever the conflict is with, when you're tired, stressed, or not feeling well. If you want to make the most of your conversation and come to an effective solution, you both need to be in the right physical and mental space to do the work. Okay? If you start talking through something difficult with your partner or whoever you're dealing with and find that you are becoming too angry, you're becoming overwhelmed or tired to continue, again, mentioned before, take a break. Resume the discussion when you both had a chance to rest and regroup. Because we're not listening, we're tired, we're irritated, and we're not listening to understand. Okay? Having a conversation that requires a lot of emotional work is bound to be much more difficult if you and your partner or the person you're dealing with are distracted by other worries. Okay? So a great example of that is you and your partner are trying to work through a disagreement you are having about who will pick up your child, from the soccer practice, but you're feeling bogged down by work-related worries or financial concerns. You think about all this stuff, you've been meaning to bring it up. So you'll be distracted from the issue at hand that needs your full attention, because now we're dealing with all this other stuff. So that's not the time to bring those things up. That might not be the timing may not be right. Okay. So we must be careful with that. Okay. The other thing, agree to disagree. You've heard that many a time. Compromise can also be a healthy way to handle conflict in a relationship. Okay. As long as you are not using it to avoid the conflict. Okay. Don't just agree because, oh, well, I just want her to be quiet. So yes, I agree with you. But behind that is resentment. Behind that is frustration. Behind that is you feeling like I'm never heard and you're not hearing me. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to agree to disagree, to use it as avoiding the conflict altogether. We do not want to do that. So you might find that there are certain differences between you and your partner or the person you're having a conflict with that strongly define who you are as an individual. Okay. So an example here, okay, is when it's something like a matter of taste or preference, you might find that agreeing to disagree is the best solution. And once that lets you celebrate your differences, okay, we know that we're different, okay? We're not going to have a full-blown argument on, style of dress, okay? Even in a friendship, okay? Your friend might say, hey, I like that color. I love that pattern. You're like, I don't really like that. That ain't my thing. That ain't what I wear. That's just awful. And I don't even know why you like that. No, ma'am. No, sir. Okay. We have to know that we all have different preferences. And just agree to disagree. Yeah, okay, well, girl, I don't like it, but hey, whatever, if you like it, agree to disagree, agree that, hey, we see it differently. We have two different perspectives, okay? And we can agree upon that, okay? That we just don't see it the same. And hey, that is okay, all right? That is okay. All right, so coping with relationship conflict, okay? Effective communication is perhaps the most important skill for addressing conflict and stress in a relationship, any relationship. If you are having a hard time developing this skill, or if the conflict in your relationship is so extreme, couples counseling might be useful. And listen, guys, when we talk about couples counseling, it's not necessarily always meant for a husband and wife. Friends can go to counseling, okay? All right. Mediation, okay, if it's a work environment, okay, and it might be useful, okay. You and your partner, whoever you're dealing with, might also benefit from individual therapy, okay. A mental health professional, whether online or in person, can give you both the tools you need to effectively handle conflict. If your partner or family member or friend or whatever the case may be with whom you are in conflict does not wish to pursue therapy, they're like, I ain't going. I don't see the problem. I don't have a problem. You the one with the problem. They may not want to pursue therapy either on their own or with you. You might still find it helpful to pursue it on your own. You go, okay, if you feel it necessary or needed. One modality that many people find useful is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also known as CBT, okay? CBT can help you figure out what's behind the conflict in your relationship, improve your conflict resolution skills, and offer strategies for managing the negative feelings that might emerge when you are feeling stressed out or hurt. If you're looking for a mental health professional to work with but aren't sure where to start, listen, go talk to your primary care doctor and get a referral, okay? Okay, so many options are available. As a school counselor, I cannot be a school counselor and not believe in the process of counseling, okay? Now, if you belong to a church, and you can always reach out to your church. You can always reach out to your pastor, first lady. Some churches have a whole counseling department, and they offer those services to their members. You can always reach out that way as well. I would encourage you. Counseling in this manner will help you deal with those underlying feelings. It will help you learn how to effectively resolve conflict. Okay, super, super important. All right, guys, so that's the end of this workshop. I really, really hope that you were able to glean something from this workshop. I hope that the information was helpful. Again, if you want to reach out to us, maybe you saw something in this workshop and you have questions, you want to talk more about it, you want to dive a little deeper, We are available. I have given you the information to WeServe CDC, also the WeCARES program, and you can get more information by going to www.weserveva.org. Again, the founder and CEO is Eugene McCowan. Lots of information on other workshops when those are provided, other information about WeServe and what is provided and what services are provided to the community. Also, I've given you my information for Healing Hearts to Heal. Again, CEO and founder Ayana Meeks. And I've given you my email, which is healingheartstoheal@gmail.com. You're more than welcome to email me with questions, concerns, anything about the workshop today. Please also go to the WeServe YouTube channel, and then also on the WeServeVA.org to also take a look at our other workshops, past, presentations, to glean more information, especially in our personal development workshops. Thank you again so much. Again, I hope that this information was helpful. I hope that you were able to gain something from today's workshop. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, thank you to Eugene McCowan for this opportunity, and WeServe Cares. I'm honored and I'm grateful. And hopefully I'll see you all next time. Again, if you put some questions in the chat, I am more than welcome to answer any of those questions. I am on live looking at that chat, seeing what questions are in there, comments, anything of that nature, excuse me. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I will see you next time.